Hey, thanks for checking out my channel. If this is your first time here, and if it's not, that means you are a subscriber. And I love you. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, and this is my review of Brian and Charles. I'm a blind film critic, so that means I did get a good description of Charles, but I still don't know what Charles looks like. I still have a composite in my brain, but I'm still just I don't know. To be fair, I actually didn't even know what Brian really looks like because he's not well known as an actor. No one in his cast. This is kind of one of those weird little finds. And when it's a film like this that has a cast that people largely do not know who they are, and it was kind of a really small indie film that was dropped in the theaters, and then it ends up with audio description, I get really hopeful that more and more films will have audio descriptions. If somebody can bother to add audio description to a film that flew so far under the radar, that Peacock I didn't even get a push notification that this that this had gotten its theatrical window finally onto Peacock. It just kind of appeared on Peacock, and I was like, Brian and Charles, didn't that? I was in theaters. Where's my Peacock notification that we just got a movie that was in theaters? Anyway, yes, this was a theatrical release. For those of you who subscribe to Peacock, you can watch something that was just in theaters a month and a half ago. Anyway, what is Brian and Charles? Because that's the vaguest title ever. Is it the true story of the love between Brian McKnight and Prince Charles? No. It's a story about a guy who lives kind of somewhere out in the sticks. We'll just say in the sticks. I don't want to say in the middle of nowhere, because he lives near a village, but he lives in the sticks of the village. And the village itself never struck me as being a large village. So when I say village, I mean village. I mean population under 1,000, And he lives out by himself. He's kind of lonely. He tinkers a lot. For some reason, and I know the film tries to give you a reason, but this is for some reason there was a documentary crew following Dunder Mifflin all those years, and we just accepted it. For some reason, he has a documentary filmmaker with a camera following him. And there are scenes in which this doesn't make any sense to follow him, and that other people have accepted that. I would think more people would be like, who is this guy with the camera? Because he's constantly breaking the fourth wall. And there's one scene where it does cut to the cameraman and refers to him specifically. He's taking a shot of something and then he's running away from it. So, and you get it in the audio description that it's the cameraman. So it's a role. It's just the unseen role. And it's just very weird. It's a very weird choice to have made for this film, because it didn't need it. There's nothing about the film that needed it. But the film kind of forgets that it has that element throughout parts of it, and that's kind of only one of my only maybe two problems with this film would be the fact that why are you using this format, and then you're also putting it into situations where it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so Brian creates Charles. Charles is a robot. At first, Charles doesn't work. He's created a thing that he thinks will work, put it together. His stomach is an old washing machine or something. And he's just a composite of many different parts. And then one day he comes back and Charles is awake. And he looks scared, and he's running around. And we slowly watch Charles learn how to speak and become a person. And he learns how to do things. And he starts having personality traits. and it's really kind of cool. There's a lot about this film that's really kind of neat. Just Charles in general, his personality, the personality that they've given Charles is adorably quirky. It's unlike any other robot in any film, I think. Maybe I would kind of like a quirkier version of maybe, don't hate on me for this, but the robot from Short Circuit. Do you know how long it's been since I've seen Short Circuit? Kind of like that. Yeah, he's kind of adorably weird and offbeat, but in a very non-threatening way. Like, you're not afraid at all that this film is going to take a dark turn. This is not one of those films where you're like, oh, I bet at the end of the film he's going to murder Brian. like, this guy isn't murdering anybody. This guy can't even pronounce Honolulu, you know? I mean, it's just... but, yeah, it's got a really small cast, and it's kind of just about this guy, and he sort of fills the loneliness in his heart by building a robot that actually works, and then he smartly wants to keep that robot hidden. There's some guy, Eddie, who, like, lives in town, and his family just sort of, like, manifest destinies their way through life. Where they just, and I just don't understand. Like, that's the other part that I didn't understand about the film. I was like, no one would have let this happen by now. Like, I didn't understand why everybody just lets Eddie do his thing. I know, like, Eddie has, like, a family. He's like a little clan. They have, like, a little clan there, right? But it's not that big. It's just him and his, like, family. It's just one family. And there's a whole town. Do none of them have guns? Is there no gun in this entire town? So everybody just lets Eddie, like, he just comes in and he just steals shit and then walks away. And he's just always like a menacing douchebag, because it references that he literally just walks in and takes what he wants and then goes. Brian mentions that he's worried about Eddie finding Charles, you know, in a moment of telegraphing to the audience, but he just came up and stole a lawn gnome and then just left, and Brian's like, he knows that he stole it, and like, nobody does anything about it. He comes into a store one time and he wants to get something, and he's like, put it on my tab, and you can tell that he doesn't have a tab. It's one of those just like offhand remarks, you know, that he's throwing out because the person behind the counter is scared of him. And I'm just like, is there no one in this entire town that can stand up to this guy? Like, it's just like, Biff couldn't bully an entire town in Back to the Future. You know, Biff would have run into someone at some point who would have been like, hold on, I'm not putting up with your shit. But this Eddie guy just seems to, like, the whole town is just like, yeah, no, he's just big and scary, and we all of us forgot to buy weapons, and we also forgot to eat our spinach as kids so that we could grow up and be as strong as Popeye, so we could fight this guy. Like, nothing, like, nobody, just this guy who walks around, he's like, this is mine, I'm taking this, I own this now. And it's so bizarre and frustrating. It took me out of the film. I was like, how does he exist? Like, how, why is there really, like, no one's complained to anybody? No police? No, even if he was the police of that town, would you not go to the other town and be like, hey, our police here's corrupt? You know, like, it's so frustrating. Anyway, that was the other thing. So the cameraman aspect of it, and Eddie as existing within the confines of what the film has given us, doesn't make any sense. But the relationship between Brian and Charles is the main selling point. It's adorable, and it's not romantic when I say adorable. I mean, it's this guy who has nobody, and he suddenly has a best friend, and it's this robot, and the robot's super quirky, and he has to be taught all these things, and then he develops his own little quirky personality, and there's a lot of things going on with Cabbage. It's adorable, and you should watch it. But yeah, it's not perfect. I wish it was. This is the kind of film that I would have loved to put in my top 10 at the end of the year, just so that everybody could be like, what is that film? What is Brian and Charles? But because of Eddie and the cameraman, I can't. There was almost a perfect film here, but they just messed around with it a little bit. Anyway, the audio description on this was good, except, again, I wasn't really sure what Brian or Charles, I mean, I have like kind of an idea, so I guess I could have used slightly stronger description on them, since they are the whole film, just to kind of understand. I didn't know who the actor was, so I have nothing to go on. I don't know if he's overweight, skinny, big, tall, old, young. No, I didn't know anything about this actor, so nothing to base my initial thought on. And then Charles is a robot, so. But otherwise, it's good narration. Every little quirky thing that Charles does is described well, so that's good. Unfortunately, it's on Peacock, so Peacock immediately tries to get me out of the credits as soon as humanly possible, so I have no idea who did the audio description. But that's it. So check this film out. I'm going to give Brian and Charles a B. Yeah, that feels right. So let me know your thoughts, and you stuck with me this long, so if you are not a subscriber, please think of subscribing, because I'm trying to get to 100 by the end of the year. You can visit my website, macthemovieguy.com, for more reviews. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what else has audio description, where you can watch it, and you can go to the adna.org, which lists a whole bunch of credits for people who do audio description. So that's it for me today, and I gotta go review something else, but I'll see you on the other side.